Hey, everybody, this is December 2nd, 2021, Flux community meeting. I'll paste in the link to our meeting notes. There we are. Thanks for being patient. I had to be a few minutes late to get this internet. Okay, so here you go. Does someone want to get started? I have a couple of things to add to the end of this, but does someone want to get started with the round of what's happening on the way to GA? Or I could probably help with that as well. In fact, I'll volunteer. Yeah, so well, actually, I can help more with where we're going on the way to graduation of the project. I think the GA, Stefan, correct me and Sunny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the recent updates that Sunny posted in the Flux contributor channel about the refactoring is probably the best summary of where we're at on the road to GA, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, from a refactoring point of view.
Yeah. Did we have any other major milestones before the refactoring? I know we have a list of milestones, or we have a list, but that's what I think is the highest, really the biggest thing.
There are two separate things. One is refactoring, the other one is multi-tenancy.
Right, actually, that's right. After the security review, we want to make sure that we have the multi-tenancy reviewed fully by a security expert before we go to GA. That's where we're at now, right? Stefan, should we update that timeline in order to reflect that as a step? Or let me put it a different way. Maybe we should do that. This migration timeline here, because our next, I mean, the public GA is the next step, but it may be good to have a note here about to follow what we need to do before we get to this next step. What do you think?
It's in the roadmap. So there is a checklist in the roadmap. Do you want to copy it on the table? I don't think it helps.
But did we have this on the roadmap? Okay. Sorry, I guess I just wanted to make sure, since this is the first item on our list, I wanted to make sure we don't. I could be wrong about this because it changes a lot, which is great. Thanks for keeping it updated. But I don't see. Actually, I do see it. I see the multi-tenancy improvements.
Yeah, we need to update this and add the RFC links here instead of that pull request that we have to close.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. I'm just going to add these notes, and then the next topic is the audit follow-up. Stefan, would you like me to do that for the roadmap, to take that off your plate?
What?
Would you like me to update the roadmap so you have one less thing to do?
No, I will update it.
Okay. Okay. Maybe just ping me and I'll look at it. Okay. Does anyone want to cover the audit follow-up? Or should we just discuss it? I'm not sure who put this item on here.
It's copied from the template.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can start. So the link to that audit follow-up is that project, and I'll put the link here too. So I know that a few of these items I'm going to be checking off the list pretty soon. The ones for some of them for the website. That's really documentation only. I'm most likely going to be doing that next week because I'm putting together a Flux training that's currently not public yet. My hope is that it will be public soon. So I'm pretty wrapped up in that for the last couple days this week. But next week I will finish, or excuse me, work on some more of these, wrapping up the website issues that are in the audit follow-up. But then there are other ones. Does anyone have anything to bring up around this that's a priority, or thoughts around what's next in this project list? If not, that's okay.
All these fuzzing pull requests are failing. It doesn't seem like what's done there was ever tested. So nothing works. I'm getting spammed that every single PR fails because for some reason the Google infrastructure or whatever cannot download and run binaries from the internet, and we need to download control runtime env test and run it locally in order to do that. So I don't know. We really need to decide what to do with all this fuzzing stuff. That's clearly broken. So someone has to dedicate a week, 2, 3, 4, and understand what fuzzing means, what their environment is, and how we can make all of this work. If not, I'm going to close all of them, all the pull requests, because they are just sitting there failing nonstop. That's not useful for anyone.
Yeah, I see. They're all initial commits and initial setups. The source controller, the source controller one is passing.
It's impossible because source controller has C bindings and the Google environment does not allow dynamic linking. So unless someone figures out how to statically compile Flux, that's not going to work ever.
Got it. All I meant is the checks are passing. So whatever.
Which checks?
It doesn't mean that that's actually everything's working or it will be compiled properly.
You are looking on the Google environment or where?
I'm looking at no, I simply only meant that our automated checks are passing, that's all.
So these are not GitHub actions.
Yeah.
This runs on the Google stuff.
Right. Okay, do you think we can, all right. Do you think we can, would it be a good idea to reach out to Adam? I could do that now, or I could do that today and see if we can see if Adam can join our next meeting and what the status is on his ability to focus on these. See?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have a contact with them anymore.
Yeah. I guess all I'm thinking is if we can give feedback on the PRs. I mean, I guess what I'm hearing from me, Stefan, the feedback is just that they're all completely broken.
Someone that understands how Flux works, how Flux builds, has to rewrite all this stuff, and also has to look into what are the requirements for the fuzzy environment inside Google.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe we should go ahead and make that note and close the PRs.
Yeah, or we leave them there for another year and ignore them. I definitely don't have the bandwidth to deal with this. So,
yeah, I would like to spend some time on this, but maybe after a few weeks.
What I want to do is make a note, but I want to be both polite and accurate. You know, like, thank you so much for these TRs, right? They're not covering everything that we need in our environment where we compile all the binaries. They're failing. We can't spend a lot of time giving more feedback on this right now because it's not. We need someone who, like you said, Stefan, someone who understands how Flux is built.
Tiny volunteers, so it's all fixed.
Should I say that again? Sorry, repeat that, please.
I volunteered, so don't have to worry.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Well, I guess the only thing I want to think about is like we still want to, even if someone gives a PR that's not correct, we still want to thank them for their contribution. You know, so maybe if you want to do that, Sunny, in the comment, that's awesome. Or I can collaborate with you on the response.
We did that in the blog post, didn't we?
Yeah. All right. I'll anyway, I'll connect with you, Sunny, on that just to make sure that we're also doing it in the PR too. You know, it's not even necessarily just for the person making the PR. It's also to encourage the other people who are out there looking at this process to know that we're being, you know, like thankful to people for contributing, regardless of, you know, whether it helped or not. By the way, apologies for the background noise. Max, that's actually me dialing in. I had another internet problem, and so I went to a local cafe. That's why that background noise was happening. Right when I was talking, some people were loading a lot of things onto a truck, so I muted myself temporarily. Okay, that's awesome. I can mention, if it's helpful, I can mention where we're at with graduation. Right now, we're working pretty hard to respond to the questions, the questionnaire. It's kind of a new process by CNCF TOC, and Daniel H is spending a good amount of focus on this, which is awesome. I've helped a little bit, and I think he's reached out to other folks on the team in some meetings, including folks on this call who helped with answering those questions. So that questionnaire is in a pretty good place. And that's just really helping to give them a better idea of what's improved since incubation, and what's matured in the Flux project overall since incubation. So that is well on its way, and we'll keep you posted. Oh, hey, Chris.
Hi, all. How's it going?
Great.
Hey.
Sorry I'm late.
Does anyone else, I'm going to start taking some notes now. Does anyone else have other items that they want to put on the agenda? We could also end this relatively early. But is there any other focus that someone wants to give?
Yeah, I think we should note in the agenda that the RFC process has been approved and merged.
Yes.
We still need to do some other things like modify our governance and point to the RFC process from there. So what I basically done, I said, okay, most proposals go to GitHub discussions, where you ask for community feedback and so on, also here in the meeting. But if the proposal is to substantially change something in Flux, for example, adding APIs, breaking how Flux gets installed, deployed, and so on. So most breaking changes or substantial changes to how Flux behaves has to go through a RFC process, and the RFC process is described in the RFCs directory inside Flux 2. And we have to link from the governance to this document. Let me give you the link. So here it is.
That's awesome. Yeah, also congrats on that. I really loved how the RFC process came through. I was wondering if we were going to go the FIP route, like the hip and hip style, but I think the RFCs really made a lot of sense where you drew the inspiration from for that, and it looks great. That also is that's a really good, not story, but it's a good indication of the maturity of this project for evaluating graduation.
Yeah, we'll see if the process works and how hard it is for external contributors to open RFCs. So far, it's only me that I'm doing these RFCs to define Flux multi-tenancy. But yeah, after we get the first RFC opened by someone from outside the core team, then we can decide, hey, should we modify something? Should we simplify something? Is this way too complex? There are a lot of things in here from Rust and from Kubernetes cat process. So yeah, both Rust and Kubernetes have this huge community and maintainers group. We don't. So it's always a challenge to adapt something that works for a project that has thousands of maintainers and thousands of contributors to something like Flux, where, yeah, it's just a couple of us.
Yeah.
Yes, for the current RFCs, I'm hoping to get the 01 RFC finalized by the end of next week. Got some good feedback. Also, A lot of people have read it, approved it, and so on. But yeah, next week I'm going to sit down with Michael and Hide and reword some of the things. Right now, it's a mix of describing how multi-tenancy work and also giving explicit having this explicit documentation of how do you onboard the tenant and so on. And the two styles don't mix well together. This is what I'm talking about.
Got it.
So yeah, we are planning to change this a little bit. So it's more towards explaining the concepts than showing how it's actually done. So probably I'm going to remove the CLI commands from there and describe the process. The 003 RFC, that one actually proposes how the soft multi-tenancy could be implemented, and I think that's the right place to add all the CLI commands, explain what they do, have all the Kubernetes RBAC YAML inline there, and so on. 01 is more about giving people a high-level view of what Flux does and how it works. So that's the status around this. And I'm going to add to the roadmap the 3 RFCs and replace that link the pull request, and I'm going to do it now.
Cool. I added
Sorry,
that as an action item.
You said there was 003?
What?
Sorry, I'm trying to understand. You said that there was RFC 003 in addition to 0001, or is it just right now there's just 0001?
There are 3 RFCs. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. I must be looking.
Yeah, Sebastian, here's just a filtered list of them, of the open PRs.
So the first one sets up Flux in the multi-tenancy view, like Kubernetes does it, like soft multi-tenancy, hard multi-tenancy, namespace as a service, and all of that. Number 2, RFC number 2 addresses a specific problem to Flux, which is not related to Kubernetes multi-tenancy at all. It's about being able to share sources across namespaces. I don't know, a good example here is I have the Binami Helm repository. I don't want each tenant to pull in that Binami index file in each namespace and do all that traffic for nothing. If I approve some public Helm repos, I could just share them with all my tenants as a good known configuration. You can get good known configuration from this repo. So that's the idea about being able to share this type of sources. And there is a proposal on how you can restrict it. The idea is the same as with network policies. By default, you allow no one to access your source unless it's you in your own namespace, but you can say through a namespace selector, hey, I'm allowing everyone or only these namespaces to access my source, this particular source, I don't know, Bitnami Helm repository or whatever. And RFC number 3 is about giving a security profile to Flux when you install it, when you upgrade it, when you bootstrap, and so on, where you basically say, hey, I'm installing Flux on this cluster, and this cluster is meant for multi-tenancy. So when you install Flux with the security profile multi-tenant, Flux locks down everything. By default, it doesn't share any sources. It always looks for a service account to impersonate. It doesn't go straight to cluster admin. And that's what's proposed here. So basically number 2 and number 3 build upon number 1. Number 1 defines what's multi-tenancy, and the other 2 are improvements to some things that are showcased in 0.1 as, you know, downsize to our current implementation. For example, you need some policy agent like Kyverno or Gatekeeper to enforce service account impersonation, to enforce cross namespace access and so on. So we want for people to be able to deploy Flux without any policy agent and get the same secure setup. The feedback was, yeah, we don't want to run Kyverno or Gatekeeper. We only want to run Flux, and Flux should be able to protect itself from everything. So that's what we are trying to achieve right now.
So if you say you want to run Flux in a secure context, that if you create one of these resources effectively without a service account name attribute, it just doesn't accept it or doesn't resolve it or whatever you're doing. I mean, this kind of addresses the thing that we were actually just talking about in senior engineering hours, but sorry about that before. I was looking at the blob and then going back to the Flux CD directory and looking for 01, 02, 03 subdirectories. So I did it the wrong way. I should have gone in through the PRs instead. Apologize for that.
No,
but yeah,
there are
I'm going to read.
They are not merged. That's why they are still pull requests.
Don't worry about spitting into the wind, though, Stefan. I'm going to read these because this is something that I've been intensely interested in now for a while that we have not. I think we're kind of missing. We're not resolved, and we could really benefit. So this is fantastic. I'm clapping very hard for this in my head.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people feel the same way. I definitely do too. And Sebastian, are you interested in collaborating a bit on some documentation around this? Once
yes.
you get your head around it? I remember you said that in general before. Okay.
We've got, I can take even some of the stuff that I've been doing for our client and use it as the beginnings of trying to document some of this, because we've got a significant need, and that needs to be addressed.
I'd like to be part of that as well, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Was that Max?
Get into the RFCs.
Oh, was that?
First, step one is going to be digging into those RFCs. So I'm going to read through Stefan's RFCs and make sure that I completely understand them before we start anything else. But yeah, it's going to go entirely through the Flux project and be, submitted with the charts and diagrams and pictures with the circles and arrows on the back, just like Analysis Restaurant.
Thanks, you two. I put your names on that list of volunteers to collaborate.
As long as you only need docs in English, I'm perfectly willing to do it. I can't write them in Romanian. I might need Stefan's help for that.
Oh, speaking of, we have someone who volunteered to help with translating Flux docs into Chinese, into both Mandarin and Cantonese. Yeah, so we should form a plan around that. I wouldn't want to squander that, especially in, have someone either not take advantage of it or focus on areas that we know are changing rapidly. It's probably best to start focusing on the areas that we know are not changing that rapidly, is my thought. But I will connect that person here. Disclosure: they work for Weaveworks, so we don't have to necessarily worry about a random person trying to put, any crazy stuff in there.
We can use Google Translate anyway, right? To verify it also.
I think we're more likely, we would need two unrelated translators to verify that.
Yeah.
Not just the soup
We had a
recipe.
problem with that before. On a past open source project, there was a problem with that before, and yeah, it was interesting.
Hey man, in a couple of generations, we may all be speaking Chinese, so it'll be fine. It'll work out in the end.
I would love to.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing more about this and how we keep them up to date, because yeah, translating, we have like a bunch of docs, many docs. We have to refactor them into smaller documents. If someone does that for our main docs in English, we will do that for other languages. And what's the expected delay between changes? Like let's say we change something now, a good example is in the last release, we added Bitbucket support to Flux Bootstrap, right? And that means having a whole section in the install documentation. Hey, here is how we can automate the whole stuff on Bitbucket with the Bitbucket server API and so on, right? So for the moment we merged that and we released Flux and we have this new documentation section, how long will it take for that section to be translated and published in the Chinese version or any other language? I mean, we need to set some expectancy for people and be very transparent. But yeah, let's talk about that on a different meeting, maybe next year.
Okay, that sounds good. I noted that we should coordinate that as part of when we do the splitting up into smaller docs refactoring. That makes a lot of sense to me. Also, just one fun note is that the way our website is set up, luckily this is not a big feature, but it does help folks. It does have the updated date, so at least people, even after we set the expectation, at least people can see when those things have been updated. Yeah, so so there, at the very least, there's that. So it's transparent. But yeah, okay, I'll end that one, Stefan, and I just put a note to follow up. In fact, I'll make an action item for that.
Yeah, I think we can discuss it again next year early on. Invite people that are willing to help with translation in this meeting and discuss with them all these issues.
Yeah, and really do the initiative with some real organization. Thank you. The only thing I wanted to mention, the only other thing I wanted to mention, it reminded myself because Chris, you joined this. We still have a date to follow up on some Flux walkthroughs, but we didn't actually set the follow-up date. We have a rain check from when you were at Red Hat. Wanna do that? I'll offline with you about.
Yeah, ping me, and we can talk.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's. I should know this, but did that PR get approved yet, Chris? About you?
No, not yet. It's still open.
Okay, so just a quick note as it relates to Flux is this something I can mention? I think it is, right, Chris? With your new job, you're focusing,
yes,
like quite a lot of energy on GitOps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is great as it relates to different projects in the GitOps ecosystem, including Flux. So
didn't he basically announce that on Twitter already, or?
I'm going to be making it very obvious here today.
Yeah. Kudos, by the way.
Thank you.
again.
Yeah, I'm excited, Chris, and I know that you've been wanting to get more involved in Flux stuff. So I'm psyched that now you don't have to justify so hard to make the time for it.
Yeah, no, it's really easy for me to justify time on things when it relates to GitOps now.
Woo. Does anyone else have any topics to bring up? Because if not, we can just get some of our life back or get back to whatever we were doing. But if there is, don't want to skip over anyone.
Do we have anything on new on the UI development front? I know that
Yeah, we had
there was some activity.
Yeah, there are some pull requests opened. I merged some of those. Others are that need more work, but hopefully soon the UI will cover all the Flux custom resources and all their kinds. That will, let's say, move forward the proof of concept. Sounds good, but yeah.
Yeah, any movement on that front's great to hear about. I'm glad to see that there's some activity.
Yeah, we need to update the UI to the latest Flux version and then figure out that protobuf issue with the pull request that adds notifications, alerts, everything, all the APIs onto the UI. So yeah, that's a good step forward.
Fantastic.
One thing that's probably worth noting is that there are more companies and projects in the wider ecosystem that are building UIs on top of Flux. There is at least one, and I think possibly two now, companies that are building a business model around this as well. And then there are, there's ongoing engagements with some of the larger cloud vendors to integrate Flux into their UIs, into their GitOps offerings. So the story about, the answer to a question that various folks have about a Flux UI is a little wider too. It would be worth. We wrote up just a little bit about that for the CNCF TOC questions. I am thinking that will be public. I'm pretty sure that will be public. As part of the graduation process. It's a brand new questionnaire, so other past projects haven't had to answer it, so we don't really know, but I think it will be public. Either way, the effort that we put into answering that, we can put out there somewhere, perhaps in a blog post. But I know folks would love to hear the answer to that question, Sebastian.
Yeah, let 1,000 flowers bloom is a good approach, but we still need, our own little garden. In addition to that, it's it's the right thing to do, and I think that the approach that Stefan has taken from the beginning is the right one, and then that enables us to have more than one channel for visualizations, for instrumentation. I think it's the right thing to do, but we still need to have something from within our domain.
Yeah, there is also related work to this.
And tons of it.
Long time ago, I made some Grafana charts for monitoring Flux and all its controllers and everything that's happening. And some people volunteered to do that with JSONnet and create a Flux mixin. In the same way, there is a Kubernetes mixin for Kubernetes and Prometheus operator. So I've created a new repo under Flux community. So Flux community is this organization outside of the official Flux CD where people from community can develop their own stuff on top of Flux. There are Helm charts there, and now there is this mixin project, and someone created this huge pull request that adds all the things on how you can generate the Grafana charts with JSONet and mixing stuff. I'm not a good person to review that. I'm not a JSONet user. I don't hate it, but I will not touch it if I don't have to. So if someone has opinions about that, loves this technology, please look to the pull request and add your comments there.
Are we specifically looking for someone who will go in and act as a reviewer for this?
Yes, so there is a pull request, this one here. Yeah, I'm not sure how to review all of this. But the end result is there are the dashboards that are resulting of this are the same as the one that I made in Flux main repo. So the plan is to sunset those, remove everything around monitoring Grafana Prometheus from the Flux repo, and tell people to look at this. But it means we have to find, besides the person that opened the pull request, we need to find yet another person to maintain this on the long run. And that's it from me.
Awesome. Okay. I'm just trying to take notes on this stuff. I hope I took decent notes. Is there anything else? I think it sounds like we could probably think of more things, but we're pretty much at the end of what folks wanted to discuss. So thanks all for coming, and we'll follow up on the action items. See y'all later.
Thank you. Have a
See
nice
you later.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
You too.